At 6:12 a.m. on the third Tuesday of March, I was kneeling in 3 inches of February meltwater, watching a 40-year-old boiler die. The sound it made was unmistakable. I'd heard it 37 years earlier, my first week as an apprentice at McLaren Steel in Pittsburgh, when my father pointed at a ruptured heat exchanger and said, "Gregory, remember this sound? This is the sound of neglected responsibility." He'd been dead 11 years. The boiler had outlasted him, but not by much. I knew every weld in that system, every pressure valve, every shortcut taken by the contractor who installed it in 1989, back when this building was still a textile mill, and the word startup meant something you did with a cold engine on a winter morning. My name is Gregory Vance. Greg to the 3 men who still remembered my father. Mr. Vance to everyone else at Meridian Industrial Technologies, a company that manufactured precision components for aerospace contractors, though you'd never know it from the way they treated their own infrastructure. I'd been chief facilities engineer for 23 years, since 2001, back when the company had 14 employees, 1 fax machine, and a founder who still came down to the boiler room to share a thermos of coffee. These days, they had 400 employees, a CFO who thought HVAC stood for High Value Asset Creation, and a chief operating officer named Derek Harrington who wore sneakers that cost more than my monthly mortgage and referred to me as the maintenance guy in board meetings I'd never been invited to attend. The boiler groaned again. A death rattle in B-flat. I reached for my radio. "Martha, I'm shutting down Zone 4. Tell the floor supervisors to expect a 15-degree drop by noon." Static. Then her voice, tired already at this hour. "They'll complain, Greg. They always complain, but you're the only one who knows how to fix it." That was the problem. That had always been the problem. By 7:45 a.m., I'd rerouted the secondary loop and bought us 72 hours. 72 hours to source a part that hadn't been manufactured since the Clinton administration, install it without shutting down the clean rooms, and prevent $400,000 in spoiled inventory. Not that anyone would notice. The quarterly report would show operational efficiency. The CEO would take credit, and I would return to my basement office with the water-stained ceiling tiles and the filing cabinet that still contained my original job description from 2001. Maintain all building systems, ensure continuous operations, report to founder, CEO. The founder's name was Arthur Meridian. He died in 2019. His son Richard now collected vintage Ferraris and referred to the company as a legacy asset in investor calls. I kept Arthur's original key on my ring. Brass, unmarked. It opened nothing anymore. The locks had been changed 3 times, but I kept it anyway. A reminder of when this place meant something. My office phone rang at 8:03 a.m. The display showed, "Executive Suite. Greg? Derek here." Harrington's voice had the artificial warmth of a customer service recording. "Need you up here for a quick sync. 9 sharp. Conference room B." Quick sync. I'd learned to translate corporate dialect. Quick sync meant either a broken espresso machine or bad news. The espresso machine was my responsibility. The bad news wasn't, but I knew. I'd known since Monday, when I'd seen the org chart on Martha's desk. The one with my position highlighted in yellow. The one with TBD written in the margin. I finished my coffee. Black. From the thermos my wife had given me in 1998, before the cancer took her. Then I walked upstairs to learn which version of my future had been selected for me. Conference room B had glass walls, designed, I suppose, so that executives could admire their own reflections while pretending to collaborate. Harrington was already seated. Beside him, a woman from legal I'd never met. I started logging, not just git commits, conversations, decisions. The night Derek drunk slacked me at 2 a.m., demanding I juice the engagement metrics by removing content moderation filters from our teen mental health features. I screenshot everything, saved to 3 locations, printed hard copies at the FedEx on El Camino Real, stored in a safety deposit box at Wells Fargo. Here's what Derek didn't know about California employment law, what most privileged tech bros never bother learning. Non-compete clauses? Void in California since 1872. Intellectual property created on personal time with personal equipment, Unrelated to company business? Mine. The equity clawback he threatened, only enforceable if I violated specific fiduciary duties, which I'd documented meticulously to prove I hadn't. I'd spent weekends studying employment law at the San Jose Public Library while Emma napped on my chest. Not because I planned to sue, because my dad taught me the man who knows the rules can play the game. The man who doesn't becomes the game. Derek thought he was cutting redundant operational overhead. He was actually building my case file. The Friday before my termination, I made my move. Updated my GitHub portfolio, making sure my contributions to StreamEye's open source tools were clearly timestamped. Posted on LinkedIn about exciting new opportunities in ethical AI. Started conversations with 3 venture capitalists who'd been trying to recruit me for months. Sarah noticed my energy shift. "You're planning something," she said over dinner. Trader Joe's frozen lasagna, our splurge meal. "I'm planning for us," I told her. "Trust me." She did. That's the Midwest marriage bond. When you've survived layoff scares, negative bank balances, and cross-country moves together, you learn to read each other's silences. The actual firing was almost disappointing. Derek's assistant, someone's niece, interning between Coachella trips, emailed me a calendar invite for 1/1 sync. The conference room smelled like his $200 beard oil. "Jake, we're moving toward a more agile technical architecture," he said, not making eye contact. "Your role is being sunsetted. We're offering 4 weeks severance if you sign this mutual separation agreement." The document had a non-compete clause. 12 months. Can't work for any entity engaged in artificial intelligence, machine learning, or algorithmic content delivery. In Silicon Valley, that's like banning a mechanic from using wrenches. I didn't sign, didn't argue, just said, "I'll need to review this with counsel. Per California Labor Code Section 2922, I'll need written notice of termination cause and proper documentation of any equity clawback attempts." Derek's face cycled through 3 emotions: confusion, anger, fear, like a loading animation. "This isn't a negotiation." "Actually," I said, standing up, "it is. Because I know you removed the content moderation filters last month, and I have the Slack logs. And if I file a whistleblower complaint with the SEC before this acquisition closes, Horizon Ventures' due diligence is going to get very interesting." I didn't want to play that card, but Emma's inhaler was empty. Sarah's residency loans were compounding. The American dream doesn't wait for polite conversation. Here's where it gets wild, and where Derek's arrogance became my accelerant. While reviewing my separation agreements, stalling them with legal technicalities, I started building something. Not a competitor, a teaching tool. See, during my documentation phase, I'd realized StreamEye's real value wasn't their algorithm. It was my specific knowledge of edge case handling, the weird human problems that break AI systems. I've been solving these on nights and weekends, documenting solutions in a personal wiki. I started posting on TikTok, at a Roosevelt Belt engineer, short videos explaining AI failures using examples from my Midwestern upbringing. Why your chatbot can't understand Ohio accents, the classism of AI training data. I used a voice modulator, kept my face hidden, still needed that final paycheck. The 3rd video hit 2 million views. Then Wired wrote about the anonymous engineer exposing AI's coastal elitism. Then Bessemer Venture Partners reached out through back channels because I was technically still employed. I launched Heartland A as a research project while negotiating my exit. Open source toolkits for understanding non-coastal American English, rural contexts, working class speech patterns, built by someone who actually knew those worlds. The GitHub repo got 15,000 stars in a week. TechCrunch called it the most important AI inclusion project you've never heard of. Derek tried to claim ownership, sent cease and desists. But I'd been careful. Every commit timestamp before my termination date, every contribution made on my personal laptop using publicly available datasets. My lawyer, a former auto worker from Michigan named Mike, who'd put himself through law school after his plant closed, sent one letter citing California Business and Professions Code 16600. "Non-competes are void here, buddy. This ain't Ohio." The real explosion came when I went public. Not with my name, with my story. A Twitter thread. How I built a $50 million company's core tech on student loan debt while my daughter needed asthma meds. No names, but Silicon Valley knew. The thread got 40,000 retweets. Someone leaked Derek's Juice the Metrics Slack device. Horizon Ventures called an emergency board meeting. Derek's vision suddenly looked like liability. The acquisition Mayuan 200 meter from a Singaporean sovereign wealth fund went into extended due diligence. And me? I signed that separation agreement, with modifications, full 60 days pay, accelerated vesting on half my equity, a neutral reference letter, and this is the chef's kiss, a consulting clause allowing me to advise on ethical AI implementation. They paid me to teach them what they'd fired me for knowing. The final meeting wasn't cinematic. No shouting, no "you're fired" moment. Just Derek and me 6 weeks later at Blue Bottle Coffee on Ramona Street. He'd lost the beard oil swagger. The acquisition had been restructured down to $60 million, with him taking zero role in the combined entity. His uncle had retired to spend time with family. "I could have destroyed you," he said, not looking up from his oat milk latte. "The non-compete, the IP claims." "You could have tried," I said, "but you never learned the rules. You thought connections were power. In this country, knowing your worth is power. And working-class kids from Ohio?" I leaned forward. "We memorize the rule book because we can't afford to break it." I slid a check across the table. $5,000. His eyes widened. "What's this?" "Emma's medical bills. You once asked why I seemed distracted during that all-hands. That was the day her inhaler ran out, and Sarah couldn't leave her shift to get a refill. I was calculating whether to leave the meeting to call the pharmacy or stay to keep my job." I stood up. "Keep it, or donate it. I don't need your guilt money anymore." I walked out into Palo Alto's perpetual sunshine. My phone buzzed. Sarah sending Emma's latest drawing, a crayon masterpiece titled, "My Daddy's Robots Help People Talk." My dad had started a small consulting business helping other displaced auto workers navigate retraining programs. Mike was filing paperwork for my O1 visa petition for extraordinary ability. And Heartland I? We just closed a $3 million seed round, led by the same Horizon Ventures that had funded StreamAI. Marcus Chen himself sent the term sheet with a note, "We bet on builders, not titles." Look, I'm not telling you this story because revenge feels good though, honestly. It feels great for about 5 minutes. I'm telling you because somewhere out there, someone's sitting in a cubicle right now, being told their legacy overhead, while building someone else's dream on student loans and fear. Maybe you're a first-gen college grad washing dishes while your engineering degree gathers dust. Maybe you're a single parent grinding through night classes. Maybe you're just someone from the middle of the country who got told your accent doesn't fit the company culture. Here's what I learned in that FedEx parking lot, printing evidence at midnight while my world collapsed. Your hustle is your real ticket to the top, not the degree from the fancy school, not the family connections, the knowledge you build, the problems you solve, the documentation you keep. That's what crosses borders. That's what no one can lay off, fire, or steal. Derek thought he was disrupting redundant functions. He was actually disrupting his own future, because in Silicon Valley, in America, in any place that claims to value innovation, the people who know why the system was built will always outlast the people who think they can rebuild it without asking. My dad still lives on that split level in Dayton, but now he runs workshops for displaced workers, teaching them the computer skills I taught him. My mom's Avon business became a thriving online boutique. Emma started kindergarten last month, her asthma managed, her future wide open. Sarah finally has weekends off. And me? I'm still coding at 11 p.m. sometimes, but now it's for Heartland I, for the engineers in Cleveland and Milwaukee and Indianapolis who DM me asking how to negotiate with coastal bosses. For the American dream that isn't about getting rich, it's about getting free. So here's my ask. If you're still watching, if this resonated, drop a comment below. What's the documentation protocol you need to start in your life? Maybe it's saving emails from a toxic boss. Maybe it's finally believing your Midwestern work ethic matters in a world that worships coastal pedigree. Maybe it's just knowing your worth even when no one else sees it. And if you're a Rust Belt kid, a first-gen grad, a parent grinding for your kids, Anyone who's been told to wait your turn while watching others cut the line, hit that subscribe button. I post every Friday about turning survival skills into success stories. Not because I'm special, because I survived, and now I'm documenting the path for whoever comes next. My name is Jake Morrison. I build algorithms that can't be stolen, and I'm just getting started.